Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into a really foundational book about tackling poverty. Muhammad Yunus's Banker to the Poor. It's all about microlending. If you're curious about real-world ways to fight global poverty, well, this deep dive should give you the essentials.
Absolutely. Our goal here is to, pull out the main ideas and maybe some surprising bits from Yunus's work. It's quite something.
Yeah.
He won the Nobel Peace Prize for this. And it wasn't just theory. He really put a kind of human face on economics, showing how compassion could actually drive finance.
Okay, so I want to get right into the origin story.
Yeah.
Yunus started this in rural Bangladesh, right, back in the 70s. What exactly did he see there that just changed everything for him?
Yeah, it was pretty raw. He witnessed people really stuck. They were borrowing tiny amounts of money, sometimes literally pennies, from local moneylenders. And the interest rates were just astronomical. Think over 100% a year. It was pure exploitation. And the regular banks, they wouldn't touch these people because, no collateral, no credit history as we know it. So these incredibly hardworking individuals were just deemed, well, unbankable, shut out.
Completely shut out. It's hard to even picture.
Yeah.
So after seeing that, what was his first move, that first spark?
Well, this is what's so fascinating. It was incredibly simple, but also completely radical at the time. He personally loaned about $27 total.
$27?
Yeah, to a group of 42 villagers. That was it. He realized their needs weren't massive, financially speaking. It was about small, targeted amounts of money. And that was really the birth of microcredit. Tiny loans, no collateral needed, designed specifically to help poor people, especially women, start or, keep tiny businesses going.
Right.
The book is just packed with examples, like women using a tiny loan to buy bamboo to make stools, and suddenly they can feed their families better, send kids to school. It's about dignity, not just cash.
That's the really interesting part, isn't it? How this tiny personal experiment grew into the Grameen Bank. But how did they make it work without collateral? That's the big question. What was the secret sauce for those amazing repayment rates?
That's where the genius lies. It wasn't financial collateral. It was social collateral.
Social collateral, okay.
Exactly. Grameen set up this unique system. Borrowers formed small groups, usually about 5 women. And here's the key. They co-guaranteed each other's loans. So if one person had trouble paying, the others in the group had a strong incentive to help her out because their own future borrowing depended on the group's record.
Okay. Peer pressure, but in a supportive way.
Precisely. It built solidarity, mutual support.
Yeah.
And it worked. It just completely turned the old banking model upside down.
It really does sound like this social experiment that just took off globally. But connecting this to the bigger picture, Yunus wasn't just about microloans, was he? He had broader ideas about capitalism itself.
That's right. He pushed this idea of social business. Enterprises specifically created to solve social problems. Any profit they make isn't paid out to shareholders in the traditional sense. It's reinvested back into the business to grow its impact.
Interesting.
He really believed capitalism could be a force for good, not just profit maximization. But, that vision faced huge pushback.
I bet. Bureaucracy, skepticism from traditional finance.
Oh, yeah. They just couldn't get their heads around a model that wasn't purely about the bottom line for investors.
It's such an inspiring story overall. But, no system's perfect. Does the book acknowledge any downsides or criticisms of microcredit? Were there parts that weren't quite so successful?
That's a fair point. And yes, while it's overwhelmingly positive, the book maybe sometimes skims over some of the trickier bits. For example, there were definitely cases where people got over-indebted, taking loans from multiple places and then struggling.
Right.
And also, microcredit on its own isn't always enough. It's not a magic bullet. Success often relies on other things being in place, like access to markets, decent infrastructure, healthcare, education. Without that support system, a small loan might just be a temporary fix.
Okay, so wrapping this up. What's the main takeaway for you listening to this deep dive into Yunus's ideas? For me, it's a huge reminder that the way things are done isn't the only way, especially with massive problems like poverty. Human ingenuity can really shift things.
Absolutely. And maybe it leaves you with this question to think about. If we can fundamentally redesign something like finance to be more compassionate and empowering for the poorest, what other big systems in our world, education maybe, healthcare, even how we govern ourselves might also be ready for that kind of radical, compassionate rethinking? What else could we reshape from the ground up?